Hi, I'm Adamsdownboy and welcome to this very special limited edition video of the week version of the Mother Clucker Root of Nightmares raid guide. Like any other GOTY edition, I've achieved this by cramming all of the existing content into one handy 2.5 hour long video that is in no way connected to the fact that Bungie doesn't accept playlists for Movie of the Week nominations, so this is the only way I could submit everything. No, that would be a flimsy, underhand pretense to try and get us all a highly priced emblem, and there's no way you can prove that's why I've done this. Rather, this is so that anyone waiting for a connecting flight, long train journey or 75-minute commute can enjoy the complete set of videos in a convenient single file, as long as you have Wi-Fi and can connect to YouTube, obviously. So without further ado, onto the video, where we'll be starting off with an explanation of the Gardener mechanic before flying into the initial transmat, and we set the outstandingly professional tone now common to all three of our raid video series. Hi, I'm Adamsdownboy, and welcome to the start of the Mother Clucker Clan's raid guide series to Destiny 2's Root of Nightmares. These guides are aimed at anyone who's yet to run the raid, or for anyone who's been stuck on ad clear duty but wants to learn the mechanics so that they can take a more active role. I'd like to thank my clanmates, Aaron PK, Frel UK, Minoni, Electric Sheep, Tooks and Zone Runner for running a raid with possibly the most professionalism ever seen in a raid video, and to Zone Runner for acting as my script consultant. If you've seen our guides to Vow the Disciple and Kingsfall, we take the same approach as before. Each encounter or section will be a separate video with me initially talking through the aims, the arena you're in, how to apply the raid's mechanics and ideas for loadouts. Then I'll describe how the encounter plays out while you watch from the perspective of all 6 fireteam members, initially pausing to explain what's happening before letting the video run so that you can see how everything works in real time. We cover how to get the secret chests, as well as the location of the seeds you need to activate to obtain the guaranteed deep sight weapon from the final boss chest. We don't cover the challenges of the master version. Once you've understood the basics and are confident in executing them, the videos on YouTube that cover these should be easier to understand. There's also lore entries that you can collect as you run through the raid, but again, we'll leave it to a guide elsewhere to show you where they are. Our run was recorded towards the end of Season 20, the Season of Defiance, so we're using the seasonal artifact mods and the weapons reflect the meta then. There are only barrier champions in here, so that's the only champion type you'll need to consider, and only solar shields. Not a huge issue without the match game modifier, but nice for the additional damage and flinch you get from breaking a shield with a matching energy type. These are the weapons and armour that drop from the chests in Root of Nightmares. As is usual for Bungie, raid weapons can be quite spicy, offering combinations of traits you won't find elsewhere in the game. You'll need to drop 5 red box deep sight versions to unlock the pattern to be able to make one at the Enclave in Savathûn's throne world. The raid exotic is a shotgun, which fires a combination of stasis freeze and solar ignite pellets and is, in Tooks' own words, awesome, so is well worth chasing. The unique raid mechanic for Root of Nightmares, common to all but the third encounter, is that of growing seeds by connecting nodes. This is known as the Gardener mechanic. There are 2 types, light and dark, and it's easy to see which is which as the light seeds are white and the dark seeds are a light brown. The nodes can be in one of 4 states: buffed, active, inactive and dormant. When buffed, you'll see a formed seed with an aura that matches the seed's colour. An active node will show as a formed seed with no aura, and an inactive node will appear as a dark grey seed with a light dark helix around it. Finally, a dormant node will appear as a light dark helix without a seed. An encounter starting node will be buffed. You'll see the seed in its aura near the rally banner location. By interacting with the buffed node, by shooting it while inside the aura, you'll gain either Field of Light or Flux of Darkness. I'll be calling any Guardian responsible for the Gardener mechanic a runner throughout these videos. As you shoot the seed, a beam will appear from the seed that points in the direction of the next inactive node in the chain. In the first and fourth encounters, the order in which the nodes are connected will change slightly each time, and in the second encounter the order is fixed. Only someone holding the correct buff will be able to successfully connect nodes and extend the chain. After shooting the initial buff node 3 times, the location of the buff node will move every time you shoot to collect Field of Light. From the Clucker's experience, in the first and last encounters, the seeds are grouped in 3s, which the buff node moves between. When a section of 3 seeds is completely activated, the buff node can move to any active seed position in the section except for its current position. I'll illustrate this using the last phase of our Cataclysm run. After activating nodes 2 and 3, the buff node doesn't move as it's step 1. After shooting it a third time, it'll swap to either node 2 or 3 as per step 2. While activating nodes 5 and 6, the buff node will move between nodes 1, 2 and 3 as at step 3. Finally, once node 6 is activated and the runner returns to a fresh Field of Light, the buff node could move to any node position between 1 and 6 as per step 4. If the buff timer runs out and you need to regain it, remember that it will have moved from when you last collected it, so you'll need to relocate the buff node first. Once you refresh the buff, you can connect to the next node in the chain. This will again create a beam showing where the next inactive node is located. As you successfully activate the inactive node, you will lose the buff and will need to regain it in order to extend the chain further. Multiple people can hold a buff simultaneously, but only by standing within the aura when the runner fires to activate it. If someone else shoots the buffed seed while the runner is holding Field of Light, you'll see the on-screen message, "Nodes of Splendor have been disrupted," and they'll be unable to continue the chain. You'll need to wait for the timer to reset before the runner can recollect the buff and continue connecting nodes. Subclass movement tools like Strand Grapple, Titan Shield Bash and Warlock Icarus Dash are useful to get between nodes quickly. If you like your lore, My Name is Bife has run a raid with his fireteam which explains how Nezarec fits into the overall narrative arc in Destiny, the story behind the Witness's flagship called the Essence that the raid takes place on, and what's happening with the mechanics in the encounters. You'll find the link in the description. So, with the main raid mechanic covered, I'll now move on to the raid itself. If you look up after transmatting in, you'll see the Tree of Silver Wings created by the Traveller's attack on the ship, which is in the process of terraforming the environment around you. These are the creaks and cracks you'll hear as you make your way through the raid. The final boss encounter takes place underneath this tree. You'll be travelling towards it as you progress through encounters. Your fireteam will initially make their way through a series of small skirmishes with Shadow Legion Cabal forces. As you make your way through Cataclysm towards the first encounter arena proper, make sure to first stop off to check which deep sight seeds need to be shot to spawn the guaranteed red box weapon. In the first building you come across, on your left hand side, with a tower next to it, you'll find the deep sight seed garden out back next to a wall with 3 seeds visible. This is the sequence in which 3 deep sight seed sets that are dotted throughout the raid will need to be activated in order left to right. In this example, the seeds need to be activated in the order dark, light, light. As you find and activate each seed set, while progressing through the raid, everyone will see the on-screen message, "Your actions take root." If any of the 3 seed sets are incorrectly activated, you'll be locked out of the deep sight chest for that raid attempt, and the message, "Your spoils suffer irreparable damage," will appear in everyone's feed. If you're successful, after activating the 3rd deep sight seed set, everyone will see a message on screen that reads, "A great harvest awaits." Be aware that if you go to orbit in the middle of a raid, perhaps intending to finish it the next day, then the deep sight sequence will reset, so it will not be possible to spawn the guaranteed red box weapon when you return. I'm now going to run the first few minutes of the raid so that you can see where the deep sight seed garden is located, and then on to the first set of deep sight seeds. Follow Aaron's video for the location of both, and the others for the route to the start of the Cataclysm encounter. Jeep, are you launching?
Yeah, we're loading in.
Yeah.
Adam's talking about the intro every time. I did the clapper.
That sounds like you're rustling a packet of crisps there, Sheep.
That wasn't me. This intro is a catastrophe.
Pro team. Pro team. We are conscious buds, right?
I like the way the subtitles have just come up for me saying laughs ominously. Yeah, that was my bad on the packet sweets.
It's a long journey.
You know what,
You
I
gotta
could
have
have
sweets.
You know, you're a guardian. You're about to go do a raid. You gotta open your sweeties.
I like my Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. It is. We are professionals.
Erin, keep to the left after the initial group of Cabal to see 3 seeds in the garden. Read these left to right, so in our case this was dark, light, light.
Okay, we have dark, light, light.
I like the shot.
So that the exotic one.
Yeah.
After the last of the Cabal skirmishes, after exiting the building with a red-lit interior, Erin, with Minnow as unexpected company, jumps down to connect the first deep sight seed set. You'll see she shoots the dark seed first and then follows the beam while carrying the Flux of Darkness buff to activate a second seed to complete the chain and trigger the "Your actions take root" message on screen. The rest of the fire team make their way to the start of the Cataclysm encounter.
Where's Minnow going?
Oh yeah, you're doing it, aren't you? So I know where this one is. I was on autopilot.
Yeah,
Pro team.
I mean, I've already forgotten what the combination is, so probably best I'm not doing it.
Dark, light, light.
Thank you.
You write it down or do you have good memory?
I just remember it's only 3 things.
Good memory then. Nice.
I mean, it's 3 things more than I could remember.
This is the first encounter in the Route of Nightmares. There's no mini-boss, but this is the first time in the raid that you'll be executing the Gardener mechanic in combat conditions. Your aim is to progress through and exit the far end of the arena by linking 4 node chains of increasing length in turn across its width, starting with 5 seeds and ending with 8. At the same time, you'll be killing Tormentors that spawn in to extend a wipe mechanic timer. You'll trigger the Tormentor spawn by killing 2 shielded Scions that periodically spawn in at varying locations among red bar adds. If you look to your right from the rally banner, you'll see the Traveller with the triangular portal that the Witness created at the end of the Lightfall DLC. This map of the Cataclysm Arena shows the location of the 4 phases and the chains you'll be building, together with the possible spawn points for the shielded Scions and Tormentors in each phase. You're free to explore the first phase area. If you go directly ahead of you, you'll see the 4 dormant seed nodes that will be connected in the first phase. The encounter is started by shooting the buff node by the rally banner, or if you stray too far into the second phase area. Starting the encounter will begin a 35-second Sweeping Terror debuff timer countdown. This is the wipe mechanic, which will trigger if it ever reaches 0. The Cluckers just use left, mid and right as callouts as we progress along the length of Cataclysm, and call out the shielded Scions, also adding whether they have spawned up top or on the bottom level, and the mini-boss locations. You're split into 2 role-based teams, 1 runner to construct the node chains and the remaining 5 gunners to kill Scions, Tormentors and Barrier Champions and clear adds. While the Cluckers use only 1 runner, you can run with 2. We prefer to have an extra gunner, but 2 runners is faster and gives the inactive runner more time to find where the buff node has moved to. Within the team of gunners, it's a good idea to agree who's going to concentrate on adds on the left and right sides so that no matter where the runners are, they're not facing a huge force of Cabal while unsupported. The runner or runners will be building the chain from one side to the other. We'll use the first phase from the video as our example. One runner by themselves would start from the first node as at step 1, activating it by shooting to gain the field of light buff. They'll then move to the second node indicated by the beam. The buff has a 20-second timer to use. If it runs out you won't die, but you will need to refresh it at the buffed node. You'll see that in each phase some nodes are entangled, so the next node is resolved only after you shoot the buffed node. In the first phase, the nodes 2 and 3 are an entangled pair. In the second phase, nodes 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 are paired. In the third phase, nodes 2 and 3 and 5 and 6 are paired. And in the fourth phase, nodes 2 and 3, 4 and 5, and 6 and 7 are paired. Once the first member of the pair has resolved, the next node will always be the other. In this example, shooting the first node revealed the second node is to the right, which means the third node will automatically be the one to the left. Once at the second node, as at step 2, they'll shoot to activate it as per step 3, losing the buff. The light beam from the second node will point to the third node. Having lost the buff, the runner now needs to go back to the first buffed node to shoot it to regain field of light as at step 4, before going to activate the third node, again losing the buff at step 5. The runner will then return to the first node as per step 6 to regain the buff, before moving to the fourth node to activate it as per step 7. The buffed node has now moved, in this example from the initial node to the second node, so the runner locates it and then goes there to regain the buff as per step 8, before completing the chain at the fifth and final node as per step 9. Running through the same scenario, if your fire team has 2 runners, then as the first runner shoots to gain the first buff as at step 1 and connect to the second node to the right, the second runner will start off by waiting next to the first node as per step 2. When the first runner activates the second node as per step 3, they'll call out that they have done so. While the first runner returns, the second runner shoots the first node to gain field of light and runs to the third node as per step 4. The second runner activates it as per step 5, calling out when that's done. At this point, the first runner should be next to the first node again as per step 6 to collect the buff and make their way to activate the fourth node. The buffed node will now have moved, in this case to node 2, so the second runner finds where it is and then goes there to wait. When the first runner calls out that the fourth node is activated, as at step 7, the second runner collects the buff from node 2 as at step 8 and goes to the fifth node to activate it as at step 9 and complete the phase. Once the seed chain is complete, all of the seeds will emit a burst of light, the message "His hatred halts" appears, and the sweeping terror debuff will clear. The runner or runners should make their way to the first currently dormant node on the right hand side of the next phase area, killing adds as they go, until the next phase starts and the node spontaneously changes its state to buffed. While the runners are connecting the nodes, the gunner team has some mechanics to execute too. After starting the encounter, Shadow Legion Cabal adds will periodically spawn in, mostly a mix of Legionnaires and Centurions. A few seconds after the phase starts, and then periodically through the phase, the message "An adherent of torment has appeared" will display. This signals the arrival of 2 orange bar shielded scions, which will spawn randomly in the section of the arena that you're building the chain across. Their shield is immune to weapon fire, so you'll need to shoot or melee them while inside the shield to kill them. Call them out as you see them, as killing them is now a priority as they will keep nodes dormant, preventing chains being extended. While anyone can kill these scions, the Cluckers usually allocate a couple of the gunner team to scout them out and hunt them down, so the other gunners can focus on clearing out ground level adds to keep the runner's path clear. Once both are killed, you'll see the message "Pain calls forth a Tormentor," and a cavern of Nezarec Tormentor will spawn in on the left or right side. Once spotted, again call its location out. On the other side of the arena at the same time, a Barrier Colossus will spawn. As with all Tormentors, focus initially on the shoulder pads so that your fire team is able to damage them over their whole body. The caverns are mini-bosses. You can tell from the diamond symbol next to their name with a raid skull symbol inside, so they can't be finished, frozen with stasis or suspended with strand. Killing the Tormentor brings up the message his hatred is momentarily delayed on screen and adds 35 seconds onto the Sweeping Terror timer. The runners should keep a close eye on the timer and, if it's running low, communicate with the gunners to kill the current Tormentor quickly. For later phases, if you have enough time on the clock to comfortably finish connecting all of the nodes in a phase, the runner can call out that the gunners should damage but not kill a spawned Tormentor. If you kill it just before your runner completes the connections in a phase, then you'll be extending a timer as it clears and you'll gain no advantage. But if you wait until the start of the next phase to kill it, you can immediately extend the Sweeping Terror countdown and start with extra time, which takes some pressure off the runners, particularly in the last two phases where they're connecting 7 and then 8 nodes. And, while killing the barrier champion doesn't add to your timer, they should also be prioritised over rank and file adds, as they can be lethal if left alive with their combination of heavy slug thrower and blinding slowing micro missiles. Once the runner connects the nodes across all 4 phases, the encounter will end, remaining enemies will despawn after a few seconds, and the chest will appear on the right hand side of the 4th phase area. You can drop the Nessa's Ablation shotgun, Caraxis' Distress heavy grenade launcher, or Briar's Contempt linear fusion rifle, helmet, arms and chest armour. Runners should be using loadouts that speed up movement and provide defensive buffs. A lightweight primary weapon to boost your mobility, exotic armour pieces that boost jumping ability and sprint speed, or that add healing ability or improve invisibility are all viable. You won't be engaging in combat that much, your primary function is to stay alive and connect the nodes. Gunners can choose any loadout that works well for ad clear, as long as they have good special and heavy weapons to burst down Tormentors and pierce and kill barrier champions. In the absence of a piercing weapon, strand shackle grenades will suspend a champion so that it's unable to raise its barrier. For our run, Tukes operated as the solo runner, with everyone else assigned as gunners. Erin, Minnow and Zone were gunners also actively looking for scions when they spawned, and Sheep and Frel were pure ad clearing gunners. Tukes activates the first node to start the encounter and gains the 20-second Field of Light buff. The 35-second Sweeping Terror timer also starts for the whole fire team. After activation, the seed beam points to node 2 on his right.
Go Tukes.
Right.
Tukes activates node 2 and heads back to node 1 to refresh the Field of Light buff. With the second node having been on the right, he now knows that the third node can only be the one ahead to his left. An adherent of Torment has appeared, displays at the same time as an audio cue, and scions spawn in on the far left and right sides. As they're called out and killed, the message "Pain kills forth a Tormentor" appears on screen, together with another audio cue that one's appeared. Erin and Minnow call right side to indicate that's the Tormentor location. After killing it, the message "His hatred is temporarily delayed" appears on screen, and 35 seconds is added to the Sweeping Terror timer.
Far left, Scion.
And the other one.
Tukes activates node 3 and again heads back to refresh the light buff at node 1.
Right side.
Right side.
Sheep is forced to kill the barrier colossus with an actual proper weapon for a change, after honourably and entirely deliberately flinging his bonk hammer away to even the odds. Tukes activates node 4 and looks for where the buff node has moved to. He spots it's at node 2 and goes to refresh the light buff.
Shields often.
Tormentor is killed, adding 35 seconds to the Sweeping Terror countdown timer. Tukes activates the 5th and final node for Phase 1, and all the first phase nodes emit a burst of light to indicate success. The message "His hatred halts" appears on screen, and the Sweeping Terror timer disappears. The whole fire team now kills ads until the first buff node of the second phase appears with the 2 shielded scions. You can now watch through the rest of the Cataclysm encounter video. Focus on Tukes over the remaining 3 phases if you want to see the Gardener mechanic in action, and the rest of the fire team for the communication about the location of Scions and Tormentors. It looks fairly chaotic from the outside because it is, but it's a fun chaos when you're in the middle of it.
Got bombs, Zion. I know Zion's got it, never mind.
No, the other one's at the back, I'll get it.
I got it. Left
Left
side.
side.
Ow. One's
That's
top.
up top.
Yeah. One. One's front left, I'm going for it. Okay.
Right.
Right side. Barriers in mid.
I'm getting this Scion.
You don't need it.
Punch it if... Okay.
Okay.
Everything is in good places today.
So far.
Was that a jinx?
Yeah.
That's delete. It is customary. Got the right sign. Left one. Can see.
Left side. Up at the top.
No.
Oh.
Got the right sign. Left one's at the top.
Left side.
Barry's on the right.
I got the Scions.
Should be okay, but you know.
Oh, he's up anyway.
Go
Sorry.
pick up
We know
Mino.
Dan, I'll get him. I'll go him.
Thank you.
I'm the last one anyway.
I don't get Mino.
That's what happens when you use a grenade launcher.
Oh. That was easy.
You shouldn't sound so surprised.
As you can see, one runner is really all that's needed for a speedy clear. The main wobbles can occur if you don't find and kill Scions fast enough, which will hold up the runner while the sweeping terror countdown ticks on, taking too long to kill a Tormentor, or if someone gets isolated, particularly with the bulkier adds around. Or, in Minno's case, if you blow yourself up with Fighting Lion after a Legionnaire's "Get down, Mr. President" lunge. Even so, as we ably demonstrate, a death or two along the way shouldn't be too much of a problem. As long as you're killing tormentors to refresh the timer, and the runner is connecting nodes unmolested, you should hopefully get your clear without too much fuss. That's all for the Cataclysm encounter. I'd like to thank Kyber 2000 for their consent to use the raid loot infographic, and Priony for their outstanding encounter maps, which saved me a lot of time for this series. On behalf of the Mother Cluckers, thanks for watching. We hope that's been helpful, and may all your drops be God rolls. Hi, I'm Adam's Downboy, and welcome to the second of the Mother Clucker Clan's Raid Guide series to Destiny 2's Route of Nightmares. This is a short guide to the first parkour/jumping section, mainly included because first, I had the footage recorded anyway, and also most of the other video guides missed these sections out. I'd like to thank my teammates, Aaron PK, Frel UK, Minonai, Electric Sheep, Tukes and Zone Runner for running the raid and ably demonstrating the physics of catapults. After Cataclysm, the first parkour section has you jumping up and across a section of the ship that has been split in two. There's no mechanics you have to deal with, only a few small combat sections with a scattering of mini-boss yellow bar aspirants of Nezarec, which you should be able to roll over pretty easily with the same loadouts you used earlier. Our main advice would be to stick together, particularly if you have less experienced fireteam members. While it's fun to speedrun to the next encounter and leave adds and guardians behind, chances are you'll end up having to wait for them anyway as they try to navigate unfamiliar spaces while under fire, and, under pressure, they're less likely to learn the route. You can pull people through by starting the next encounter before everyone gets there, but if you do that, they'll never learn this section and might miss the secret chest. Unless that's what they actually want to happen, just don't, as it's a dick move. Just remember back to when you were new to the raid and needed a bit of help. During the run, you'll be introduced to the catapults, which can fire up to 3 people across a void and which are triggered by shooting a small darkness crux in front. Be aware that they can feel inconsistent. If you're not sat hard back against the launcher, or if there's a gap, or if you're sat on top rather than fully in front of the launcher, you'll fall short. If you're in contact with another guardian when you launch, you'll bounce off them and fly off at an angle. We find it makes it more reliable if you back into the catapult and keep backing into it and then counting down as you shoot the crux trigger, so everyone has time to make sure that they're well positioned and firmly seated in the launcher as it fires. You'll eventually get to a section where you're jumping across a wide void from a thin ribbon and have a choice of 3 rectangular holes in the wall. Jump through one of them. The middle one is probably the easiest combination of height and distance to reach, and inside you'll find some Cabal and a yellow bar boss class Cavern of Nezarec Tormentor. Once all the enemies are dead, the doorway at the end of the staircase in front will open. Go up the stairs into the red lit room to find the first secret chest, which can drop any gear you've already obtained from regular chests, including red box deep sight weapons and any raid mods you've not yet got. You can then continue back out and up towards the second encounter area, Scission. If you're less confident about jumping, then it's worth saving a loadout that you can use. A lightweight weapon to boost your mobility, swords either with or without eager edge, strand grapple grenades, heat rises / Icarus Dash warlocks, lion rampant titans and stompies for hunters can all help you recover from any mishaps. Some of the ribbons and pathways are quite thin, so the ability to recover can be valuable if you fall off. There's no map, so the only way to learn the route is to run it to become familiar with it. Initially, you'll be jumping down to a bridge that's extended after you finish the Cataclysm encounter, and then through the rooms and corridors of the Essence, and across large voids being created by the Tree of Silver Wings as it takes root. You can follow any of the fire team to learn the route. I'll stop to show how to get the first secret chest towards the end. You can see from Zone's view how Sheep, Tooks and Minnow are closely spaced on the catapult, which ends up with Tooks possibly catching Frel's head in front of him and flying up at a steep angle to land outside the exit door of the small skirmish area inside, and Sheep and Minnow ending up to the left of the landing platform. After that, Frel triggers the catapult before Zone is sat down properly, which means Zone ends up falling short.
Wait, I went a long way up. Where am I? Well, yeah. Hello.
I saw Aaron just fall down.
Yeah, I was trying to be clever. But my strand didn't want to reach up.
No. Oh,
What on
Well,
earth
that was
happened to you then, Frel?
I was missing by a considerable amount, and I
Yeah.
hit a tiny stone that fired me up onto where I wanted to be. I don't even know.
Aaron gets a bit isolated after running ahead of the fire team and is picked off after jumping up towards the room with the secret chest. You'll get a better view of the 3 rectangular holes in the wall in a moment as Minnow catches up. Remember, the middle one is probably the easiest to jump to.
Yeah, you literally had to see that to believe that.
I look forward to the video recording now.
Ah, yeah.
And that's the fullest.
No, I don't
Fucking hell, Aaron.
idiot.
There we go, that's more like it.
Nope. Needs to jump again.
Oh no. Oh yes.
Once inside, Aaron, Minnow and Frel head to the left to find the Cavern of Nezarec Tormentor and adds, and kill them as fast as possible with supers and power weapons. You'll be refilling at a raid banner shortly, so there's no reason to hold back.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
I
Python
feel
jumping.
like that.
With the Tormentor dead, everyone can collect their loot from the secret chest behind the now open door. After they've grabbed their rewards, they go back the way they came and use the catapult to get to the far side to get to the Cision encounter.
I like that. I come into the room and just shoot and that's
Many red boxes today. Two so far.
I'm on my Titan. I forgot that I already did this raid week, so I'm getting a whole lot of
Yeah, I did it with you, sheep. Don't get it now either, but we're getting spoils.
We're getting spoiled, yeah.
They have the place.
Oh, maybe we'll get the red bar this time.
Oh yeah, I was in that one. I was just on my hunter. I remember that now.
That's it for the first parkour section. There's really nothing that will help more than running the raid a few times to learn the path. Even after you do, as you see here, it's still easy to mistime a jump or fall off to your inevitable plummeting doom. Generally, if you can't work out where to go next, looking up and around will usually sort you out, but hopefully you'll have helpful teammates around to guide you. Just try not to get frustrated, panicky or stressed if you've fallen off a few times. Remember, no one jumps well when they're in a bad mood. I'd like to thank Kyber for permission to use their loot table infographic, and, as ever, on behalf of the Mother Cluckers, thanks for watching. We hope that's helped, and may all your drops be God rolls. Hi, I'm Adam's Downboy, and welcome to the third video in our Destiny 2 Root of Nightmares raid guide series. As ever, I'd first like to thank my Mother Clucker clanmates Aaron PK, Frel UK, Minoni, Electric Sheep, Tooks and Zone Runner for the run. In this video we'll be looking at Cision, the second encounter, which is mechanics based, so like Cataclysm there's no boss here. Your aim is to get to the area's exit, moving up through 3 levels in turn. To clear each level, you'll need to grow both a light and a dark seed chain, each made up of 6 nodes to create a complete sequence before the timer runs out, while defeating all the adds on that level. You'll be using the gardener mechanic from the Cataclysm encounter, but now there are 2 types, light and dark. It's easy to see which is which, as the light seeds are white and the dark seeds are a light brown. So I'll just start with a quick reminder of the terminology I'll be using, taken from the first video in this series. The nodes can be in one of 4 states: buffed, active, inactive and dormant. When buffed, you'll see a formed seed with an aura that matches the seed's colour. An active node will show as a formed seed with no aura, and an inactive node will appear as a dark grey seed with a light-dark helix around it. Finally, a dormant node will appear as a light-dark helix without a seed. If you want a fuller explanation of the mechanic, then feel free to watch from the timestamp in the first video in this series. There's a link in the video description, and we'll be here when you get back. As you enter the arena, with the rally banner area in front of you on a floating island in the middle of a large central void, you'll see a left and a right side, each with 3 levels. Nearest to you on each side, there's a buffed node with an aura containing a dark seed on the left and a light seed on the right. You can't start the encounter by accident, so feel free to look around the ground floor of both levels to familiarise yourself with the layout. Spaced along each side facing towards the large middle void, you'll see 3 catapults, each with their small trigger crux in front. The first 2 can be used to cross from side to side, and the last launcher is angled so that you can reach the next floor up when you've completed a level. As we demonstrated a couple of times in the second video of this series, the catapults can feel inconsistent. Remember that reversing back until you're firmly in contact with the launcher and crouching before shooting the crux to activate seems to improve its reliability. At least that's what it seems to us. Looking along the length of each side, you'll see 5 dormant nodes in addition to the buffed node. However, the nodes you need to activate each type aren't all on the same side. 3 are on the starting or home side and 3 on the far or away side. The buffed node will always stay on the home side, so to create the seed chain, you'll need to use a catapult to alternate between the 2 sides. If you're planning to learn the mechanics, it's a good idea to get some ad clearing practice on both sides first, so you can get an idea of where the nodes are on each floor. Most are sited on the ground, but there are a few that are located on walls. You'll see from Prioni's map that on your home side the seeds you're after are closer to the central void, while on the away side they're by the wall. Shooting the buffed seeds starts the encounter, so you should coordinate the two sides with a countdown. This grants everyone inside the aura a timed buff, Flux of Darkness from the dark seed on the left side and Field of Light from the light seed on the right, which both last 20 seconds. At the same time, a 2-minute imminent expulsion wipe timer starts and adds will start to spawn in. These adds will include Redolent Centurions with immunity shields matching the home node type. To damage them, you'll need to be holding the Flux or Field buff while you're shooting. Something we only recently noticed was that a graphic appears on each side wall to provide a visual reminder of the progression of the imminent expulsion timer, which is a nice touch. If the timer does run out, you'll find that its name is a pretty accurate description of what's just about to happen to your fire team. You'll need to complete the connection of both light and dark seed chains to end the wipe timer on that floor, and then kill all the adds to progress. As in Cataclysm, the buff node will remain at node 1 until the seed is shot 3 times, after which the buff node will switch to node 3 to use to connect nodes 5 and 6. Also, as before, only someone with the correct buff can extend the seed chain. If a node is activated incorrectly, the message "Nodes of Splendor have been disrupted" will appear on screen and your runner will lose their buff. The nodes themselves will also disappear for 10 seconds, so you won't be able to make progress. This won't necessarily end a run, but it does mean a 20 to 30 second delay of your 2 minutes. The path followed to create the seed chain will be consistent each time. The odd-numbered nodes 1, 3 and 5 will always be on the home side, and the even-numbered nodes on the away side to be cleared in order 1 to 6. Your fire team will need to split into 2 teams of 3, 1 per side. As you might have done with Cataclysm, it is possible to run the encounter successfully with a single runner jumping back and forth between the 2 sides and handling the whole seed chain creation and 2 gunners on ad clear. But this is the least efficient method, adding considerably to the time spent travelling between nodes and gives less room for error. We don't show this method during our run as it's not the Clucker preferred strategy, but I've included this graphic to show the route from the light side's perspective. The dark route would be the mirror image starting from the left hand side. A better way, which can also be used to introduce newer players to the Gardener mechanic, is to have 2 runners and a gunner. The first runner will connect nodes on the far side and the second connects nodes on the home side. This approach is a lot more efficient, as the more experienced first or away runner traverses between the 2 sides and activates the even numbered nodes, while the second or home runner stays on the starting side to activate the odd numbered nodes and can help with ad clear when they're not too busy. Finally, the gunner is on pure ad clear duty with responsibility to gain the buff to deal with redolent shielded adds. For simplicity's sake, I'll illustrate the mechanics from the light side perspective as it's identical to the dark team on the left, which will be doing exactly the same thing in parallel. After the away runner shoots the first light buff node in step 1, your away runner will use the nearest catapult to head over to the far side to activate the second node in step 2 and call out that it's been done. The home runner and the gunner will stay close to node 1 and clear adds. When they hear the call, the home runner shoots the buff node 1 with the gunner in the aura as well if possible to pick up the buff. In step 3, the home runner makes their way to the third node to activate it while the away runner returns. The home runner should again call out that the light node is done as it's step 4 and continue helping with ad clear. The away runner can now shoot the buff node 1 for the 3rd time to pick up the buff and move the buff node to node 3. The away runner then catapults over as per step 5 to activate the 4th node and calls out when it's done. The home runner, waiting near node 3, shoots the seed and takes the buff while the away runner returns as per step 6. Again, if the gunner is nearby, they should be in the aura to grab the buff too. The home runner can then make their way to the 5th node to activate it, calling that it's done as per step 7. The away runner regains the buff from node 3 as per step 8 and catapults back to the away side as per step 9 to the 6th and final node to activate it and complete the seed chain for that side. The buff node will then move to node 5 as per step 10. The third way to approach Scission for more confident Guardians is to use 2 runners as efficiently as possible, having each connect both light and dark nodes, cutting down the number of catapult trips by ensuring that they never use one without carrying a buff to connect a node on the other side. This means ad control is easier again with 2 dedicated gunners in each team. Again, I'll talk through the mechanics from the light side, with the dark side being the mirror image. After gaining Field of Light from the buffed light node 1 at step 1, the light runner crosses the void using the catapult to activate node 2 as step 2 and calls this out. The dark runner will also call out when they've activated their second node. Then, rather than crossing back across the void again, they will take Flux of Darkness from Dark Node 1 as at step 3 and use it to activate Dark Node 3 as per step 4, calling that out when done. They then return to the buffed Dark Node 1 to regain the buff as per step 5 before crossing the central void with a catapult as at step 6 to activate the Dark Node 4 as per step 7. Now they're back on the light side, they can take the buff from Light Node 3, which is now the buffed node as per step 8, as the dark side runner will have concurrently activated Light Nodes 3 and 4. They can then use the buff to activate Light Node 5 as at step 9. They'll then return to node 3 to pick up the buff again as per step 10, before crossing over the void with a catapult to activate Light Node 6 and complete the chain as per step 11. Whichever of the 3 methods is used, the runner will now be on the opposite side from where they started. The runners can use a catapult to return to their starting side, but it's more efficient for them to stay on the same side as the 6th seed and swap the initial buff collected each time. Once node 6 is activated and the seed chain is complete, all the nodes of that type will emit a pulse of light, the imminent expulsion timer will disappear, and you'll see the message "Your ascent is blocked by interlopers," a new spawn of Redolence shielded adds, including a yellow bar mini-boss Redolent Centurion. The buff node will also shift to the 5th seed position and can now be used at will for anyone on that side to gain or refresh their buff to enable ad clear. While the runners are connecting nodes, gunners will be responsible for ad clearing. You'll see that among the rank and file Cabal ads spawning in on each level, there are orange bar Major Centurions that are immune to unbuffed damage, Redolence of Decay on the dark side and Redolence of Splendor on the light. To kill them, you'll need to have the matching buff active in your feed, which you can gain from being in the buffed seed aura when a runner shoots to collect their buff from nodes 1 and 3, or after the 6th node is connected, from the 5th node where you can collect it at will. It's a good idea to have the 3 team members on each side inside the buff node aura when the first node is shot initially on each floor, so that they all gain the buff. This should give the gunner enough time to kill the first Redolent Centurion along with the other spawning ads. After starting each floor, gunners should initially hang about between the 1st and 3rd nodes to clear ads, being ready to return to the buff nodes. The runner should call out when they're on their way to regain the buff, so that the gunners can meet them inside the aura to gain the flux or field buff. Gunners must also be ready to quickly erase a barrier colossus that spawns after the 4th node is activated, as this can shred your runner if left alive. Alternatively, you can ignore the Redolent Centurions, perhaps neutralising them with Stasis Freeze or Strand Shackle effects, and focus on clearing all the other ads. You can then shift to Redolent ads when all 6 nodes are connected, and the 5th node can be shot at will to refresh the buff, so that you can then finish them off. Once all the ads on both sides of a floor are killed, you'll see a message on screen reading "Energy travels upwards, beckoning you." The first node on the next floor will become buffed, and the trigger crux for the final catapult of the level will appear, which you can now use to launch up to the next floor. Make sure the fire teams on both sides are ready to go before counting down and coordinating the 2 activations. The next 2 floors will follow the same pattern as the first. The main problem inexperienced players might face is accidentally triggering nodes out of turn. The home runners, if you have them, and gunners need to be careful not to disrupt the nodes, particularly if your runner is on the far side, as this will waste a lot of time and there's not much of it to spare. To be safe, never shoot at ads from inside the aura of a buffed node. Be aware that AoE damage will also trigger the node, so be careful using grenades, melee attacks or supers nearby. Even a well can cause problems with the damage it causes to enemies when cast. Finally, while there's no timer on screen, if you take too long to kill the remaining ads after completing the chain on a floor, this will also trigger the imminent expulsion wipe, so you'll need to be fairly speedy with your cleanup. Once you've connected all 6 nodes on the 3rd floor and cleared all of the ads on both sides, the reward chest will appear near node 5 on the dark side. You can drop the Ness's Ablation shotgun, Michael's reference sidearm, Acacia's ejection trace rifle, arm, chest or leg armour here. Runners should be using loadouts that speed up movement and provide defensive buffs. A lightweight primary weapon to boost your mobility, a sword to help change movement direction, and exotic armour pieces that boost jumping ability and sprint speed, or that add healing ability or improve invisibility are all viable. Strand Grapple can be a lifesaver if you do have a misfire. You won't be engaging in combat that much, your primary focus is to stay alive and connect the nodes. Our experience is that Warlocks are the least viable class as a runner, unfortunately, as their jump is the least able to recover from a catapult launch that fires you too low. Gunners can choose any loadout that works well for ad clear, as long as they have good special and heavy options to burst down chunkier ads and pierce and kill barrier champions. In the absence of a piercing weapon, Strand Shackle Grenades will suspend a champion so that it's unable to raise its barrier for an easy kill. For our run, to illustrate the main ways of completing Scission, we used 2 runners per side on the 1st floor, these were Tukes and Minnow on the dark side and Erin and Frel on the light. For the 2nd and 3rd floors we used the preferred clucker method of 1 runner per side completing both dark and light seed chains, Tukes and Erin running on both floors. The encounter starts with Tukes and Erin shooting the buffed seeds, while the other fireteam members stand inside the aura to gain the buff as well to deal with the first Redolent Centurion to spawn. As the away runners, Tukes and Erin use the first catapults to cross the central void and get to the 2nd seed to activate it, calling out when they're done. While they're doing that, the others focus on ad clear.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Dark done.
Light done.
The home runners, Minnow and Frel, then collect the buff from node 1 and use it to activate node 3, while the away runners use the catapults to return. When they're finished, they call that out.
Okay. Dark stun.
Done.
Tukes and Erin regain the buff from node 1. As this is the 3rd time the node has been shot, the buff node shifts to node 3. They now use the catapult to cross the void and activate node 4 on the away side, calling out when done.
Okay, dark done.
Light done.
Activating node 4 spawns the barrier colossus near the 5th and 6th node on each side for the gunners to deal with, or, in Zone's case, get killed by. The home runners can now grab the buff from node 3 and use it to activate node 5, calling out when done, while the away runners return.
Dark stun.
Light done.
Tukes overcorrects from his catapult launch and falls into the central void, but is able to save himself by using his super, as Minnow shows once again that if you live by fighting lion, you'll eventually die by fighting lion. Unfortunately, Tukes' buff timer runs out before he's able to activate the 6th node, so he has to return to regain the buff. While I wouldn't recommend this ordinarily, after he's revived, Minnow takes advantage of the delay by taking the buff out of turn to fight redolent ads. Erin completes the chain of light seeds on the 1st floor and returns to the light side where they finish up their ads.
Oh. Haha, saved it.
Oh, sugar.
Although I just
Is it?
lost the bus.
Light's done. You can take the buff.
Tukes picks up the Field of Darkness buff again and returns to the 6th node to activate it and complete the chain. You can see that it unlocks from Minnow's activation lockout just as he arrives. After completing the chain, he goes back to the dark side, which frankly we've all suspected for years, and the team finishes up their adds before both sides coordinate their launch to the second level.
Dark is not done yet because I messed up. But I didn't die, so, you know, there is that.
Work with what you got.
Dark is no dark.
Wait for me, wait for me. Okay, I'm here. Thank you.
We're not going yet. We can't go yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dark side is slow. Right. Okay,
Good to go.
3, 2, 1, go.
Go.
On the second level, we run with the one runner both seeds method. Initially, both Tukes and Aaron shoot the home side buff node 1 and launch to the away side to complete node 2.
Same again.
Right. No,
No,
it's just
so
me and Aaron.
Fro, you and me are not doing it this time. It's just
Yep.
Aaron
Ready?
and Tooks. We're just
Yep.
tag play now.
All good.
Okay, done.
Done.
After completing the second node on the away side, both run to the away side node 1 to collect the buff and activate the away side third node. The runners again return to the first node on their away side to recollect the buffs, which shifts the active node on both sides to the third node, and use the catapult to travel to their home sides, where they activate their home side fourth nodes. This causes the barrier colossus to spawn for the gunners to deal with. Tukes and Aaron both go to the buff nodes at position 3 on their home sides to recollect their buffs and use it to activate node 5 on their home side.
Done.
Done.
Finally, both runners collect their home side buff from node 3 and launch across the central void to activate node 6 on their away sides. Once the second floor is finished, they stay, rather than launching back to their original sides again, before the two teams move to the catapults to launch up to the third, final level. Having swapped, Aaron will be starting on the dark seed side and Tukes on the light side. As the teams travel up to the third level, we get our first catapult misfire, but as you can see, recovery isn't too much of a problem as Zone's revive orb appears on the active level, so Tukes can pick him up. If he'd fallen to a lower floor, he'd have to use the catapults at the end of each level to get back to the action. You can follow Tukes and Aaron again to see the one runner both seed strategy and the flow of communication between them, or the gunners to see how they coordinate to deal with the redolent adds.
Sorry this time.
Light's done.
Dark's done. We'll stay on this side, Aaron. Stay on your side.
Okay.
May as well. And then we'll just go up. And go to the sides.
Real one.
Let me know when I get the buff.
They're all done. Go for it. We're all done.
Still dead anyway.
They're all dead, Dave.
3, 2.
Oh, wow.
Ole.
Bye, Zone.
This is awkward.
Let's go. Done.
Yeah, I went the long way round. Dark's done.
Hello.
Someone get in zone.
Yeah, I'll go get it.
Cool.
Kind of heading that way anyway.
Thank you.
I haven't got the buff.
Okay, I'm done.
Light's done.
Okay.
Dark's
Dark
done.
is done, you can get the buff. Or light's done, you can get the buff.
Yep,
Whichever
you
one I
can
just
all
did.
get buffs. Both can get buffs. Make it easy.
The buff buffet.
Oh, that's it. Now we have to wipe and restart because that joke was terrible.
You're welcome.
Well, at least it's a new joke. We've now got 9.
Yay!
Back up to 9. Awesome.
Shake.
Yeah, coming. Thank you for waiting.
We're all gone.
Um,
Oh.
Yeah, I'm on.
So, that's Scission done. Like Cataclysm, it's hectic and, as I've found, can get quite complicated when you break it down and try to explain what's going on. But once as a runner you get confident with the relay, and as a gunner can anticipate where to go to get the buff and have good positioning and the tools to take down the barrier champion, then this becomes quite straightforward. Even a couple of deaths are recoverable from, and if you can avoid losing time from disrupting the nodes, you'll hopefully be able to finish the encounter quickly. I'd like to thank Kyber for permission to use their brilliant loot table infographic and Priony for their awesome encounter maps. As ever, on behalf of the Cluckers, thanks for watching, we hope that's helped, and may all your drops be God rolls. Hi, I'm Adamsdownboy, and welcome to the 4th video in the Mother Clucker Clan's Root of Nightmares Raid Guide series, together with my fellow Cluckers Aaron PK, Frel UK, Minoni, Electric Sheep, Tooks and Zone Runner. In this short video we'll demonstrate the second parkour section of the raid between Scission and Macrocosm that is unusual in that it involves a variant of the raid's main mechanic. Your aim for the second parkour section is, unsurprisingly, to get to the far side to the next encounter. All 6 of your fire team will be running and acting as gardeners in order to survive a wipe mechanic, an overwhelming energy darkness pulse emanating from Nezarec in the distance. I'll very quickly run through the terminology I'm using in this series for anyone who's not seen the earlier videos. There are 2 types of seed that the gardener mechanic can use, dark and light. Dark seeds are light brown and light seeds are bright white. These can exist in one of 4 states: buffed, which appears as a fully formed seed inside an aura of a matching colour; active, which appear as formed seeds without an aura, inactive, which appear as a grey sphere inside a dark light helix, and dormant, which appear as a dark light helix with no seed visible. Shooting a buff node while inside the aura will give you a 15-second buff called Flux of Darkness or Field of Light. After collecting your drops from the Scission chest, you'll first need to jump inside a, in sheep's words, beautiful and delicate flower. Once everyone has entered the flower, 2 dormant seed nodes near the start will spontaneously convert to buffed nodes. You'll then collect the Flux of Darkness or Field of Light buff and use it to connect sequences of 4 light and dark nodes. Finishing both sequences opens what can generously be described as an iris mechanism, similar to the one that protected the Stargate, but which looks to us far more organic-y, sphinctery, and quite frankly intestinal. Once back outside, you'll notice that you've gained a new buff called Darkness Refuge, and see a buffed light seed in front of you, which you'll shoot to gain the 15-second Field of Light buff as you did in Cataclysm and Scission. This time though, you're not taking the buff to another light node to extend a chain. If you look down, you'll see a dark seed. Shooting the dark seed while holding Field of Light will recreate this new Darkness Refuge buff. You can hold both buffs at the same time. Because you're not creating light and dark chains, you won't lose the Field of Light buff when you shoot the dark seed as you did in the previous 2 encounters. As before, the buff will be granted to anyone standing within the aura when the seed is shot, and will persist for a short while after, so others can run in to gain it without creating it themselves. This buff will be continuously applied while you stay within the aura, and for 15 seconds after you step out again. The Darkness Refuge buff is the only way of surviving the overwhelming energy pulse, which will trigger roughly every 45 seconds or so. So as a team, you'll need to make your way across the section using catapults to traverse large voids and alternating collecting Field of Light from buffed light seeds and creating Darkness Refuges. There's an audio warning that this is about to happen. If you listen, you'll hear heavy heartbeat sounds before an alarm that rises in pitch as it gets closer. You'll have about 5 seconds from hearing the heartbeats to getting to a refuge if you don't have the buff, or if your buff timer is about to run out. If you have less experienced team members, the best way to do this is to stick together rather than speedrun. Maybe use a couple of 3-person teams so that the catapults don't get overloaded. There are enough people to take on the Cabal skirmishing groups you'll encounter, which will respawn continuously, and so there's someone on hand to revive an orb if anyone should die. A door at the halfway point, and the door to the next encounter won't open until the fire team is all there, so speedrunning past ads and leaving them for those who follow to deal with won't gain you anything. This parkour section has both the second deep sight seed set and the second secret chest. You'll find the seed set after taking the 3rd catapult, jumping over to a building on a floating island on the left where the main path takes you to the right. You'll need to connect the 2 light or 2 dark seeds depending on the sequence shown in the deep sight garden. When you've successfully completed the sequence, everyone will see the "Your actions take root" message on screen. Be aware that you will be at risk from the overwhelming energy pulse and need to get the timing right to get in and out to the next refuge before the pulse hits. The second secret chest, much to Sheep's surprise apparently, is just after the middle door that doesn't open until the whole fire team is assembled. Up the stairs to the right, looking down from an edge, you'll see a small crux that when shot will open the door to the room with the chest for the fire team. As is ever the case with secret chests, you can drop any raid armour or weapons that you've already obtained from encounter chests, along with any raid mods that you've yet to collect. There's not really any difficult jumping in this section, so I wouldn't say it's necessary to change your setup, but if you feel more comfortable in changing to a saved loadout, go for it. You'll be facing the full panoply of Cabal enemies, mostly minor red bar ads with the occasional orange bar elite and yellow bar major, so the weapons you used in Scission should be fine. Let's just say that now we've got a fair few clears under our belts, the Cluckers do usually take a Pirate's Code approach to this section. Anyone who falls behind is left behind. It's what Captain Jack would have wanted. Here we mostly stick together, particularly for the second half. At the start, inside the flower, Aaron completes the Dark Seed chain and Tukes the light to open the far end iris. Once outside, Tuke starts fastest, finishes first, and for the first time for him, without dying, so you might want to concentrate on his video to see the route from start to finish without interruption. During the run, Erin sorts out the deep sight seed set, so watch her to find out where that is, and Zone sorts the small crux to open the door to the secret chest. I'll highlight them in the video so that you can follow them to get these two locations.
Hey,
Yeah,
regular
pump
pump shotgun.
And into the flower.
Are we referring to it as a flower because we're recording?
Erin completes the dark seed chain on the left and Tukes does the same on the right. Each time, as in previous encounters, extending the chain involves finding the buff node, shooting it to get the flux of darkness or field of light buff, and taking it to the next inactive node in the chain to activate it by shooting it while standing close by. The path is fixed and finishes in the centre of the room by a floating stone with a dark seed underneath and a light seed on top. A pulse of light from the exit followed by the iris opening and a change of objective indicates success when they're both finished.
Yeah, I was
Because it is what it is, Mino. A flower. A beautiful and delicate flower.
yeah. I mean, whatever floats your boat, shape.
Flow.
Oh no. It's going to be the jumping section now, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh no.
Oh,
That's going to be on
Alright,
stream?
I'll just mute myself.
I realised I've never done the light nodes in here before. The Voyage of Discovery.
Was it exciting?
Very exciting.
Congratulations on the Conqueror ×6 too.
Oh my god. The Heights battleground was awful.
I
We
said it
did it
before.
by pure fluke. Uh-oh.
Alright, so I'm following Took, so if I die it's his fault.
Alright.
Tukes waits for no man, or titans, or anything.
Four Guardians crowd the catapult and the crux is shot while they're still positioning themselves for launch. It's carnage as a result. Erin is able to recover using a strand grapple and Tukes redirects himself with a melee, but Sheep shanks far to the right and even triggering his super can't save him from the plummet.
No! No!
Chad saw that coming a mile away.
Ah yes, the anguish screaming has started.
Now I'm going to get punked by this thing.
Sheep uses the first catapult again and waits at the next darkness refuge. You can see the overwhelming energy pulse in his video as it starts to expand from Nezarek's coffin out through the outside space until it reaches the various members of the fire team.
See, I want to go for the next one, but I know that as soon as I move it, it's going to start the white mechanic. There we go.
Bye, Frail. Should not do this. Oh my god, I should not have done it.
Erin jumps across to find the second deep sight seed set and activates the light seeds to continue the chain. The fire team all see the "Your actions take root" message in their feed to confirm this was successful, but she dies just after she exits, having no buff to save her from the pulse.
Set one up down here, but I'm assuming it's going to... There we go.
I'm gonna die because I've just done the code. There we go.
I'll go pick a Baron.
Thank you.
Tukes reaches the halfway stage and waits by the darkness refuge while clearing ads until the rest of the fire team catches up.
Right, I'm with you, sheep.
Wow.
Are you ready?
It's all done up here, by the way.
I was just waiting for that.
Oh my god.
Won't open yet, sheep to the wall here.
They have a name!
Mother cluckers.
After the door opens, Zone heads to the small crux that unlocks the door to the second secret chest, while everyone else deals with ads while waiting outside. I say everyone, but apparently no one has ever told Sheep about it, so this was a lovely surprise for him with this run. The second half takes you through a landscape that looks increasingly transformed and disrupted by the Tree of Silver Leaves. You can watch any of the fire team perspectives, but Tukes provides a run that's uninterrupted by deaths, so probably provides the best view.
Do you guys come back or do you press on forward now?
No, come back and get the secret chest.
There's a secret chest?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, why'd you have to tell him?
No, there is not.
No way. What?
Oh, to be fair, sheep, if you're not going to get anything from it, actually. Because I didn't.
I got a chicken head. The Titan helmet.
I got another red border. What's going on?
Alright, I'm gonna keep
Tukes is taking all the red borders. Yeah,
He is, isn't he? Yeah.
I'm telling.
bold of you to cheat on recording.
I might die. Oh no! I was on 0! And I moved towards it and it still died. No.
I'm glad you guys are here because I did not have the buff.
You
3,
spitting
4,
out.
3, 2, 1, and there goes my buff.
Bye.
Son bitch.
I think this is one of my better runs, so I'm glad this is the one.
I'm not going to say.
Say it.
Don't want to jinx himself.
Oh no, I've been slowed down. Oh no. I do not have the buff. Oh, I do have the buff. Thank you, Toots. You legend.
You're welcome.
Whoa, calm that down. Gee. Strong, harsh language there. Calling Toots a legend is the most offensive thing I've heard on this game.
Thank you.
What did you do to Frail, Toot?
Apparently,
Good luck
it's a
editing
sign
this.
apparently, it's a sign of affection. That's what he tells me.
Is it English affection?
Yeah. And when I question whether or not I really want to be his friend, he backs down.
Pretty much.
Anguished screaming and occasional death aside, that was a mostly straightforward run, and at the very least you should have a better idea of the route you need to take. As with all raid jumping sections, after a few runs you'll start remembering seed locations and develop a sense of when to move and when to stay to avoid getting killed by overwhelming energy pulses. Our general rule is that if you're waiting inside a darkness refuge, you can start moving once you hear the heartbeat and the pulse alarm start. You'll have seen a few times how someone was able to survive the pulse wipe mechanic by reaching a darkness refuge that had been set up by another fireteam member, so if you're in a trailing group, watch out for these as they might just save you even if you haven't got the field of light buff to create your own refuge. I'd like to thank Kyber for permission to use their loot infographic in all our guides. Thank you for watching, we hope that's been helpful, and may all your drops be god rolls. Hi, I'm Adamsdownboy and welcome to the 5th in the Mother Clucker's video guide series to Destiny 2's Root of Nightmares raid with my fellow clanmates Aaron PK, Frel UK, Minoni, Electric Sheep, Tukes and Zone Runner. In this video we'll look at the third encounter, Macrocosm, which is the first proper boss encounter of the raid. Your aim is to defeat a yellow bar boss Incendior, Zoark Explicator of Planets. So you'll need to take everything you've learned about the Gardener mechanic over the first 2 encounters, as well as creating darkness refuges from the parkour section you ran through to get here, and just forget them all as Macrocosm doesn't use any of them. To damage Zoark, you'll need to do your DPS phase from 3 plates in turn that correspond to his darkness or light shield affinity. These plates are charged by moving a matching planet type to it after first identifying and moving 4 mismatched planets, 2 from each side of the arena. If this sounds complicated, don't worry, as it kind of is, but hopefully it'll be a bit easier to understand once we're finished here. As you enter the Macrocosm encounter area, the Essence's operations room, you'll see a symmetrical arena split into a light side on the left and a dark side on the right. On each side there's a lower and upper triangular platform, each with 3 planets floating above, 1 at each corner, and a T-shaped platform in between them. In the centre there are 3 plates, each with a planet above and a small crux floating in the middle. At the back of the arena there's a raised platform where you can see the boss standing with some scions. As you get closer, around where the rally banner is located, you'll see that 2 of the planets above the plates in the middle will start glowing. The one on the left will glow with light energy and the one on the right with darkness. You'll be moving these planets around, as was presaged in the Insight Altar of Reflection on Savathun's Throne World last year, where she told us that the power to move worlds will soon be yours, as one of her 2 truths and 2 lies. For Macrocosm, you'll need to split into 2 teams of 3, 1 per side. 2 guardians from each side will be runners, identifying and moving planets, and 1 will be the gunner, clearing ads so that the runners can execute the mechanics with as little interference as possible. The 2 guardians on the top platforms will be paired, as well as the 2 on the bottom ones. The first thing you'll need to sort out is naming the planet locations. This can be as much fun as naming Oracle locations in the Atheon fight in Vault of Glass, or the plates on the Oryx fight in Kingsfall. One way of doing this is to number the planets from 1 to 6 on the light side and 1 to 6 on the dark, which avoids the need to call out whether the planet is located on the bottom or top plate. Or, alternatively, you could call out top and bottom 1 to 3 on each side. This has the advantage of only having to remember the 3 positions on each plate rather than where all 6 positions are. The Cluckers, albeit not without a little animated discussion on our Discord server, name the locations as top and bottom platforms, with the planets closest to the outer wall being wall, the 4 nearest the plates in the centre of the room inner, and the 4 at the apex of the triangle as you look at it from the arena entrance being mid. I'm just going to say I've always preferred bridge over mid, with the bridge being the direction of the platform that the boss stands on, as the meanings of mid and inner can be confused in the heat of the moment. You'll see in the video that this can happen quite easily. But, as ever with naming conventions, just make sure everyone is on the same page before you start, and remember that there's no absolute right answer to any naming convention. It's not worth losing friends over the name of areas in a raid encounter, even if wall, inner and bridge have the advantage of being more right than any other possible names. Zoark will initially ignore you while he plays with his computer, so you can have a fair look around if this is your first time. The encounter is triggered if you get too close, step on one of the top plates or shoot him or one of the scions nearby, so avoid doing that until everyone's used the rally banner and in position. After starting, everyone should kill the continuously spawning enemies until a solar shielded honoured centurion appears on each side. The gunners and top plate runners need to focus on killing these to spawn a yellow bar terrestrial lieutenant colossus on that side's 2 platforms. These should be killed quickly by that platform's runner to gain the planetary insight buff. If a runner is struggling, gunners can help damage the colossus, but should avoid shooting when its health gets low so they don't inadvertently gain the buff. Planetary insight allows you to see the type of planets at each platform's corner. On the left hand light platforms, 2 planets will glow white and 1 orange, and on the right hand dark side 2 will glow orange and 1 white. The mismatched planet needs to be moved to the other side. To do so, the planets all have a planetary attunement orb projected underneath that a runner can interact with to gain the planetary affinity buff. Gaining the planetary affinity buff will cancel the planetary insight buff, so you'll no longer be able to see the planet's type. The new buff now allows you to transfer the planet above the orb. You'll use this to move it to replace the mismatched planet on the other side. The first person to pick up planetary affinity during a phase will start a planetary shift countdown timer lasting 30 seconds across the whole fire team, which applies to all 4 runners. The 4 mismatched planets will need to be transferred to their correct destinations before this timer runs out. When the countdown starts and finishes, the whole fire team will hear an audio cue that sounds like a church bell. It's important to coordinate between all 4 runners and for no one to pick up the buff until everyone's ready. One of the top platform runners should act as the lead to coordinate pickup so everyone has as much time as possible to transfer their planet. After identifying the mismatched planet, each runner should tell their top or bottom platform partner its position. The runners will need to take their planet to the corner that their partner has left empty on the opposite side, so that each platform on the left has 3 light planets and each platform on the right has 3 dark planets with no mismatches. Be aware that most of the ads will be concentrated at the bridge end of the arena. Runners on the top plates may decide that, even though it takes longer, it's safer to run down towards where the rally banner was and cross between the 2 bottom plates before making their way to the top plate on the other side. Once the 4 attunement orbs are deposited, the planets will start to move to their new positions and the runners can go back to their original platforms. If you've made a mistake and moved a planet to the wrong location, the incorrect planets will return to their original location. If the planetary shift timer hasn't expired, you can shoot the crux in the middle to end the timer early and reset the phase. You'll need to kill a new round of honoured centurions and terrestrial lieutenants and proceed again on the pair of platforms that still have mismatched planets. The planets you need to move will be the same as before. Correctly located planets will stay in place and won't need to be moved again. While the runners are moving planets, the gunners will be killing Cabal Scion and Phalanx adds as efficiently as possible, so that runners aren't disrupted by the Scion's grenade attack to boot them into the air and aren't facing too much enemy fire as they cross between the sides. Standing on the 2 T-shaped platforms will let gunners deal with adds on their runners' platforms and also give a good vantage point for shooting adds below in the middle of the arena. Or, if your runners are confident that they can handle the adds on their plate, the gunners can mix it with the adds in the middle in CQC. This is probably the more effective way of keeping their attention off your runners. Although it's not possible to damage the boss at this point, gunners can still distract him if he's focusing on one runner and making life difficult for them. In this example, to demonstrate the planet moving mechanic, after the 4 runners have gained the planetary affinity buff, the left top runner calls out that their wall planet is mismatched as it's glowing orange, while the right top runner calls out that their mid planet is mismatched as it's glowing white. On the bottom platforms, the left runner calls out inner and the right runner calls mid. So on the top platforms, the left runner needs to take the planetary attunement from the wall orb to the right side mid corner to replace a planet that the right runner is transferring from mid into the left wall corner position. On the bottom plates, the runners swap planets between the inner corner on the left and the mid corner on the right. If you take too long to transfer all 4 planets into their correct positions, Zoark has a flaming wipe mechanic which will kill the whole team. The timer is fairly generous, but you'll probably only have time to correct a mistake once. When you're successful and all 4 mismatched planets are successfully transferred, the message "the indexed planets reveal themselves" will appear on screen. The planets will start to move to their new locations and emit a burst of light or dark energy. The Cluckers tend to return to their starting platforms after moving their planets. You could stay on the side you've just travelled across to, but it doesn't gain you any time as you still have to wait for Centurions to spawn, so we prefer the method with fewer moving parts. When all 4 planets are in the correct locations, 2 more honoured Centurions will spawn among a new wave of adds, and once killed, a fresh terrestrial Lieutenant Colossus will appear on each platform. Killing them will again grant the planetary insight buff to the Guardian landing the final blow. This time, your lead runner will use it to inspect the 3 planets over the damage plates in the middle of the room. There will be 2 of one type and 1 of the other, so it will only ever be 2 light and 1 dark, or 2 dark and 1 light. The lead runner will direct the other runners so that they take a planet of a matching type to each plate, light on light and dark on dark. Any planet of the correct type will do, so choose them from the inner corners where they're closest. If they don't pick up an orb themselves, the lead runner can retain the planetary insight buff to make sure everything is in order. The runners will again interact with the orb to collect planetary affinity, to move their planet, and start the planetary shift timer. The rest of the fire team should converge near the damage plates to get ready for boss damage. In this example, we'll assume that the lead runner is on the top left platform. After gaining planetary insight, they would see that the left and mid damage plates have a darkness planet floating above them, and the right plate has a light planet above. They'd then direct the top right runner to take a dark planet from their platform to the left plate, the bottom dark runner to take a dark planet to mid, and the bottom left runner to take a light planet to the right damage plate. Any incorrectly set damage plates will mean they'll not be able to be used for boss DPS. After all 3 plates are correctly set, the planetary shift countdown timer will disappear, and after an audio cue that sounds like a big door shutting, Zoark will jump down and the DPS phase begins. Again, you can hurry it along by shooting the central crux, which will move the planets faster, if you like. One of the runners should have responsibility for deciding for the fire team the order in which the plates will be used. Zoark's immunity shield will alternate between light and dark affinity, dark light dark or light dark light, so your fire team will need to stand on a matching plate to get the field of light or flux of darkness buff to be able to do damage similar to the redolence adds in the Scission encounter. In this example, you could use the plates in the order left right mid or mid right left, but the final decision will be up to the lead runner. You'll have a damage window of 30 seconds, that's 10 seconds per shield type split across the 3 plates including your travel time. Each plate can only be used once, so you'll have 10 seconds on the first plate and around 7 seconds for the second and third after you get there. Zoark's health bar works a little like the caretakers in Vow of the Disciple. A short section will glow to show the maximum damage you can do on each plate, although you can push past the limit for a second or 2 afterwards. On each damage plate, as Zoark swaps his immunity affinity, the message "the explicator shifts focus" will appear on screen. Zoark will bring up a virtual console, switch his shield type and send a flaming twister into the plate you're standing on. The fire team will need to move to the second and then the third plate to continue damage. When all 3 plates have been used and you no longer have any buffs to be able to damage him, he'll summon a flame twister around him which will kill anyone standing too close and return to his starting platform again, while the planets over the plates move back into their original positions. Take the opportunity to collect any power ammo bricks before the add phase restarts and reload your heavy weapon. You'll then need to rinse and repeat until you do enough damage to trigger his final stand. 2 full damage phases should be enough to take him to the marker on his health bar, but you can have up to 3 to get there if you're struggling with heavy ammo. Once Zoark enters the final stand, he'll summon his Flame Twister wipe attack around him and pull the 3 planets you moved for the damage phase to him, empowering all 3 plates, so now any of them can be used to damage him. After killing him, he'll rise within the twister and explode at the top before dropping down. The macrocosm loot chest will appear on the bridge that Zoark stands on, behind where he makes his last stand, and can drop the Caraxes' Distress heavy grenade launcher, Michael's Reverence sidearm, Rufus's Fury auto rifle, and chest, legs and class item armour. In setting up for macrocosm, your most experienced guardians should be your top plate runners, as these will have the most to do. Because they have the best line of sight to the honoured centurions, they will be in the best position to burst them down, as well as the scions and lieutenants that spawn around their platform. They will also be travelling across the most densely populated area of the arena, and will be travelling the furthest. One of these two should act as the lead to coordinate the runners and make sure everyone's picking up the planetary alignment buff at the same time, and to call out the middle plates for damage. The two bottom platforms are good locations for learning the mechanics. There are fewer adds, and the travel distance between them is smaller. You also have the option, as Sheep demonstrates, of standing off your platform in the central area near to where the rally banner was planted. Here, you're not as crowded for combat if you're more comfortable like this, and the 3 planets can be viewed easily once you have the planetary insight buff. Gunners on ad clear duty still have a crucial role to play in assisting the top runners in killing their centurions and clearing ads from the central platform area to make the crossing as easy as possible. They can also help with keeping the top and bottom platforms clear of scions. If you're running, you'll be dealing with the scions that jump down to your platform and bursting down both the honoured centurion on your side and the terrestrial lieutenant. You'll need good close or mid-range primary weapons and a good burst special weapon, as well as your boss DPS weapon. You'll notice from our video that Chill Clip Stasis fusion rifles or Strand subclass grapple grenades are a bit of a favourite, preventing the lieutenant from shooting back. Auto rifles are a pretty good call for top platform runners, having the range to hit the honoured centurions as well as being useful in CQC. Void Hunter runners with invisibility builds can also be useful for crossing between platforms and avoiding damage, as Minnow shows in our run. Gunners' loadouts will depend on whether they're planning to mix it with the ads or stay more remote up on the T platforms. For our run, both Tukes and Sheep are running Solar Bonkhammer Titans, which is a great CQC subclass. As ever with gunners, weapons with ad control perks like Volt Shot, Incandescent, Destabilising Rounds and Chain Reaction make your job easier. Waveframe grenade launchers are another way of both dealing with groups of scions and phalanxes, being able to get underneath their shields, and anti-barrier weapons are handy to shoot through phalanx shields. Finally, everyone will need burst weapons for boss damage. Machine guns are good for the ammo economy, as if you hit Zoark with a few bullets when he goes immune, that's a lot less of a problem than wasting a grenade launcher or rocket launcher shot. If you have it, Divinity makes racking up damage easier. Different seasons tend to have different damage metas, so just go with whatever causes the most damage fastest. This was the encounter that caused our run the biggest problem, with a new clan member Frel who was running for the first time on one of the top platforms. This caused a couple of problems. First, he wasn't as used to having to juggle the ads and the honoured centurion kill, which meant that the terrestrial lieutenants on the dark side spawned in a few seconds later than the light side ones on the left. Before watching the videos, we thought the planetary shift timer was individual to each runner rather than applying to the whole fire team. So, no one realised their disadvantaged Frel by picking up the planetary insight buff, or that he was starting with a timer that was already 1/3 expired. Well, now we know better, and so do you, so you can avoid the mistakes that we made. The video you're about to see is from the 6th attempt, so frustrations were beginning to show, and I've modified Frel's soundtrack so we could keep our PG rating. The encounter is started by Frel jumping over to the dark side top platform. Zoark jumps down to the central platform and ads start to spawn in continuously. After 5 seconds, the second wave, including the honoured centurions, spawn in.
Good to go.
Damn you, Tux! Why are you giving me a low score?
Damn.
I know, harsh. Wasn't intended, it was a general low score for everybody.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't intended, but happy accident.
Yeah.
The light side honoured centurion is killed by Minnow, and the light side lieutenants spawn in and are killed by Minnow and Erin. The right Centurion is killed by Frel, and the dark side lieutenants spawn in and are killed. After checking the 3 planets on their plates, Minnow and Erin call that their mismatched planets are on the inner corner for the top platform and mid for the bottom platform. Erin and Minnow pick up their planetary alignment buffs to move their planets, starting the planetary shift countdown timer for all 4 runners and triggering the church bell audio cue.
Okay, this is enough for my one throw.
Mid shape.
Sheep mistakenly calls out inner for the bottom dark side plate, but fortunately Erin has line of sight and just swaps her planet in for the one that Sheep's just taken. Frel calls wall for the top dark plate, but as you can see, 1/3 of the planetary shift timer has already gone by the time he starts moving his planet.
It's going to be inner for you.
Wall.
Okay.
Did you say inner?
Yeah.
Minnow transfers his planet to the top dark wall position, and Sheep transfers his planet to the lower light inner position. They start moving back to their starting platforms again. The planetary shift timer runs out before Frel's able to transfer his planet, which triggers the church bell audio cue again. You can see the planets move back into their starting positions in Took's view. At this point, there's no reason to shoot the central crux as the timer has already run out. If a mistake had been made and there was still time on the clock, you could shoot it to reset that phase of the encounter, but for now, the fire team just waits for the Centurions to respawn.
Oh, I've got Scions on it. No, I didn't get there in time.
It's alright, we got time.
The Centurions spawn in and are killed by Tooks and Zone. Terrestrial lieutenants spawn in and are killed by all 4 runners, but only Minnow and Frel need to identify the mismatched planets on the top platforms, with the ones on the bottom platforms already being in the correct position.
Well, my guy doesn't spawn until really late, and then I had 3 bloody Scions sat on the one place where I had to go to.
Minnow again calls out inner for the light side and collects its planetary alignment to gain planetary affinity and start the planetary shift timer. Frel again calls wall for the dark side.
Yeah, it's enough for mine.
Wall again.
We're fine shape.
I know. I checked.
Minnow transfers his planet and returns to the top light platform. A few seconds later, Frel transfers his planet and returns to the top dark platform. It would be possible, if you wanted, to shoot the central crux now to finish the planetary shift timer and move the planets into place faster.
Oh, sat on it again. I know, but then...
Calm, deep breaths.
Honorary Centurions spawn in again with the on-screen message, the index planets reveal themselves, indicating that all planets are correctly positioned. They're killed by Minnow and Tooks, which spawns terrestrial lieutenants on all 4 platforms, which are then killed by the runners. Minnow calls that the damage plates are light on left and right and dark in the middle. Erin moves a light planet from the bottom left platform to the right hand damage plate. Minnow moves a light planet from the top left platform to the left damage plate, and Sheep moves a dark planet from the bottom right hand platform to the middle damage plate. After that's done, everyone assembles near the damage plates and gets on with ad clearing.
Okay, it is light left and right and dark is mid for Sheep.
Dark mid.
I'll do right.
Okay, I'll take left.
Minnow calls out left, mid, right as the order that the damage plates will be used in.
And it's going to be left, mid, right for damage.
Left, mid, right. Thank you.
Yep. Why is everything on fire?
The door closing audio cue signals that the damage phase is about to start, just before Zoark jumps down. You can see he has a light coloured aura and the highlighted section of his health bar showing how much damage you're able to do on this plate.
Feels like it's a very poor
Damage.
interior design choice.
Zoark changes his immunity type to darkness, becoming immune to field of light buff damage, and projects a flame vortex towards the left damage plate, so the fire team moves to the middle plate.
Immune.
Mid.
Again, Zoark swaps his shield type, goes immune to flux of darkness damage, and fires a flame vortex at the middle plate. The fire team now swaps to the right plate for the final damage phase.
Immune.
Immune.
After the third damage plate runs out, Guardians will no longer be able to damage Zoark. The planets all return to their starting positions, as does the fire team for the start of the next add phase. I'll leave the rest of the encounter to play out without commentary now. You can follow individual runners to understand the planetary shifting mechanic better, positioning the planets on the 4 platforms and the setup for the damage plates. You can also hear the communication flow between everyone.
Immune.
Immune. Not bad.
Just going around collecting heavy.
Mm-hmm. Mid for mine, bro.
Mid shape.
It's going
Whoa.
to be enough for you.
Yep, we're lit up.
Even if you move out of the way. Thank you.
Okay, it is dark left and right again, light for mid.
Oh, my planetary
Aaron, can you do
alignment
mid?
thing's gone. No, my
Okay.
my thingy's gone.
Okay, I'll do
No,
mid.
it's just not clear yet.
Oh,
Sheep
now I've
right,
got it.
flow left.
Ship right.
That was weird.
Yeah, and throw left. And I'll try and distract him. And it is left, right, left, mid, right for damage.
Left, mid, right. Thank you. Immune.
Mid. Go to mid. Immune.
Immune.
into last stand,
Okay.
save your ammo. Stay on this plate if it doesn't catch fire.
He's damagable.
Maybe,
Yep.
Go for it.
He's tethered as well.
Yep. There we
Well
are.
done.
There we go.
Prowl doing an aggressive bag.
Well, I didn't want to swear because I didn't want to
Yes, yes.
make it even harder
Black's
for
gonna-
Adams.
He's gonna have a real fun time editing this one.
Sorry, Adam. That made me really angry.
The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that Sheep and Aaron have a psychic connection, so even if he calls Inna, she heads to mid anyway. As I was watching this, I was thinking that, with hindsight, this illustrates a valuable lesson while you're raiding, particularly with people you're unfamiliar with, and that's what might first appear to be a problem that someone's having with an encounter's mechanic often has its roots in an earlier lack of communication. I mention this so that, if you're running with someone who seems to be struggling, it's worth taking a moment to think whether the problem is actually being caused inadvertently earlier on in the encounter's mechanics. Take Tooks' advice and take a deep breath, play nice just like my Clucker clanmates do here, and don't be too quick to judge. In any event, once you do start getting this encounter down, it becomes much smoother. In our normal runs, it's unusual not to finish this in a single try. That's the third encounter finished, so with your loot collected, onto the third parkour section and the boss encounter in our final videos. As ever, I'd like to thank Kyber for permission to use their loot infographic, and Priony for the encounter maps that I've used throughout this video series. On behalf of the Mother Cluckers, thanks for watching, we hope that's been helpful, and may all your drops be god rolls. Hi, I'm Adams Downboy, and welcome to the 6th and penultimate part of the Mother Clucker Clan guide series to Destiny 2's Root of Nightmares raid. As ever, I'd like to thank my clanmates Aaron UK, Frel UK, Electric Sheep, Minoni, Tooks and Zone Runner for their help. This is another short video, seeing as we already had it recorded, to show the third parkour section. Your aim will be to traverse the area to get from the Macrocosm encounter to the Nezarec boss arena under the Tree of Silver Leaves. With the Immortal Traveller overhead, you'll be using the roots of the tree to navigate your way through built structures that have been disrupted by their growth. Even though there's nothing much actively happening, the environmental design is worth taking time to appreciate. There's even some brief birdsong amongst the creaks of the roots growing and the weird grassy baseballs. There's no overall mechanic beyond using light and dark seed nodes to open the exit from a rather hairier flower entrance than the first. If you want a fuller explanation, then this is covered in the 4th video of this series, but to recap, you're shooting the buffed light seed to get the field of light buff, or the buffed dark seed for the flux of darkness buff, both of which are on 20-second timers. You're then using this buff to connect a chain of 4 seeds, finishing up at a floating stone in the centre of the room that has the final light seed underneath and the final darkness seed above. This section does have the last Deep Sight seed set that you saw back at the beginning of the raid in the Deep Sight garden, so if you're keen on crafting your own weapons, this is how you can obtain a guaranteed one after killing the boss. The one thing I'll warn you about is that, if you've not seen the 1993 version of Super Mario Bros. By now, this video does contain discussion of the film. Quite a lot of discussion, so if you don't want spoilers, turn your sound down. And I really hope Chris Pratt's mum doesn't want to learn how to run Root of Nightmares and watches this either. You shouldn't need to change your gear, but if it makes you feel more comfortable, then feel free to change to a jumping loadout. There's only a handful of adds in here too, so the weapons you've got equipped from Macrocosm should work fine. After the fire team enter the flower tunnel, Minnow and Tooks complete the connection of light and dark seeds to form the chains of 4 connections. Remember that after you've shot the original buffed seed 3 times, the buffed node will move to the second seed location. When they're finished, all of the seeds emit a pulse of energy that travels to the exit, as though someone's irritated the essence's pelvic splanchnic ganglion, opening the iris.
Sorry, Adam. That made me really angry.
Could have said like imaginative swear words like you French casserole.
I like that one.
Oh, I don't. To be honest with you, I wouldn't want to offend somebody that hard. Like I don't dislike them that much.
badly.
First light one's gone. It was the light third one, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
It was.
I got a...
Really need a sparrow here.
Hmm.
It's Disney's version of Mario Kart. Without the sparrow.
I went to the pictures the weekend to see the new Super Mario movie, and it is perfect.
I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say perfect.
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
I mean, have you seen the 1990s Super Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo?
Yeah, that was perfection.
Yes.
That was
It was.
perfection.
It's a timeless classic.
I mean, that is...
That's the movie that killed the Nintendo movie franchise. For 30 years.
I mean,
40 years.
I was listening to a podcast on it, and it was an absolute mess. It got to the point where the two directors were not allowed in the editing suite. This is basically just got like sidelined. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo were like, "Oh, this is." It was only supposed to be like, I don't know, let's say 9 weeks of filming or something like that, and it ended up being like 25 or something. So they just got hammered, just almost permanently. Yeah, there's some very interesting stories coming out of that.
What did you think of Chris Pratt's performance?
It's I'm really glad they got Charlie Day to be Luigi. I think that was a great choice. He was fine. He was fine. He just, I do like Chris Pratt's performances. It's just a shame that he has
It's Chris Pratt.
thoughts. Yeah.
At the very beginning, they do like this fake movie where they dial up the Italian accent to 11, and I was like, you know what? It's not bad. I thought it was going to suck, but no, there's a little bit of Italian spin on it. I'm happy with that.
I mean, it was the little touches.
Right.
It was like at the beginning, like they have the little illumination intro, and it's basically a minion starting a race on a cart, and like when you're trying to get the boost on Mario Kart and you go too early and you spin out. It just those little things just all the way through was just I was very happy.
You know what got me? It was the blue shell moment.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
I did not see it coming, and I was like, this is brilliant.
Aaron drops off the path to the final raid encounter and jumps down to the area with the final deep sight seed set.
Which is strange because you actually do see the blue shell coming, You're very aware that the blue coming when the blue shell is coming for you.
What bothers me is that the blue shell hits the second player. The blue shell did not hit the pole position in the movie.
I liked it a lot. It was...
Yeah, it was an okay movie.
Because even on the
Action
throwback...
animation movie.
So what were you curious about?
Now that the third Deep Sight seed set is correctly activated, the message is "Your actions take root," followed by "A great harvest awaits" appear on screen to indicate that all 3 have been successfully completed and that an extra guaranteed red box weapon should drop from the boss chest.
I was curious if I was going to keep this in the conversation in the video.
No, he like all
It
the
is going to
cool stuff
slightly
he
date
was
the
full
video,
of.
surely.
Oh no, I went too early.
Red box is guaranteed.
Oh no, Tux is going to bag me.
Oh, you were so close, sheep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna what, sorry?
What?
Oh no, Tux is going to...
Bag me.
Oh. Too far away. Next time. I promise.
Thanks, Tux.
As we always say, the best way to run the parkour sections is to run them a few times until the route becomes muscle memory, but hopefully you'll have a head start and be better informed about the Super Mario movie if it ever comes up in conversation with your friends. With the third parkour section under your belt, you've now reached the last encounter for Route of Nightmares, the Nezarec boss fight, which we'll cover in our final video. On behalf of the Mother Cluckers, thanks for watching, we hope that's been helpful, and may all your drops be God rolls. Hi, I'm Adamsdownboy, and welcome to the 7th and final video in the Mother Clucker clan's video guide to Destiny 2's Route of Nightmares raid, with my clanmates Erin PK, Frel UK, Electric Sheep, Minoni, Tooks and Zone Runner. We'll be demonstrating the final encounter, where your fire team will face off against the raid's boss, Nezarec, Final God of Pain, an Ultra Yellow Bar Tormentor. Your aim in the final encounter is to kill him, damaging him after he's made vulnerable by a blast of energy triggered by finishing Dark and Light seed chains, each one 7 nodes long. To do this, your fire team will need to juggle Nezarec's attention away from your runners and set up light or dark refuges to survive a wipe mechanic all the time while clearing adds. The encounter takes place in a space between the Traveller, trapped with the portal created at the end of the Lightfall DLC campaign, and the Tree of Silver Wings, which you saw at the start of the raid and might remember from the Cradle on Io in the Season of Arrivals. If you're interested in the lore behind the tree, My Name is Bife has a video explaining it, which I'll put the link to in the description. As you jump up to the final encounter area, you'll see a rectangular arena with Nezarec in a darkness sarcophagus at the back, floating above a high platform. On each side are 6 dormant nodes on low pedestals in broadly symmetrical patterns, and at the front, roughly in line with the rally banner, is a buffed light node to your left, this is the light side, and a buffed darkness node to your right, which is the dark. Before starting the encounter description, I'll quickly run through the terminology I use here when describing the nodes for the runners, but there's a fuller description in the first video of this series. There are 2 types of seeds, light, which are coloured blue-white, and darkness, coloured orange-brown. These can appear in one of 4 states: buffed, which have a formed seed surrounded by a matching colour aura; active, which have a formed seed but no aura; inactive, which have a dark grey seed surrounded by a light and dark helix; and dormant, which have a light and dark helix but no seed. The encounter is started by shooting one of the buffed nodes or by approaching Nezarec too closely, so if this is your first time here, you have some latitude and can have a little look around. For the boss fight, your fire team will split into 2 groups of 3, left and right. Within each team, one will be the runner, connecting the nodes and growing the seeds on each side, and also, for this encounter, creating refuges, a mechanic we'll discuss shortly. One will be the stunner, breaking Nezarec's crit spots and taking the bulk of his attention so the runners can do their job, and one will be the gunner, aggressively ad clearing the continuously spawning Cabal reinforcements so the runners and stunners can operate without too much interference. Stunners have 2 main jobs: identifying the paracausal energy type of the overwhelming energy wipe mechanic and distracting Nezarec from attacking the runners. They'll identify the wipe mechanic flavour by shooting his 2 shoulder crit spots. When the second one is broken, he releases an aura that matches the upcoming attack, which the stunners need to call out so that the runners can set up a matching refuge. Their other task is to take Nezarek's attention. Left alone, he will target a random fireteam member with an untimed debuff called Nezarek's Hatred. You'll see the debuff message in your feed along with a purple tinge running around the edge of your screen. Anyone affected will be repeatedly booped into the air by a damaging void psionic blast like the ones Scions use. This will make chain building impossible for a runner, so the stunners will need to shoot his chest crit spot quickly to take the Hatred debuff after his shoulders are broken, in case they themselves are the ones targeted, as being booped will make shooting crits difficult. Doing this will remove the Hatred debuff from the other Guardians and replace it with a 12-second long Nezarek's Hatred debuff for you alone. Instead of the psionic blast attack, he will actively chase you down, attacking with his axe and jump dive suppressing you to the exclusion of other fireteam members for the duration of the timer. It's useful to have a second stunner as a backup to take the Hatred in turn if Nezarek's attention is proving too much to handle. Also, remember that the best thing to do when he's preparing a jump dive attack is to be running to the side to get as far away from the landing spot. If you can time a slide as he lands, you'll not be bumped much at all. If you're running and on the ground, you'll be bumped a little way, but if you're in the air when he lands, you could be bumped off the platform to die, as the boop attack has its greatest effect when you're in the air. While it's tempting, just try to resist jumping to get out of the way, as the suppression debuff will prevent you from activating your jump or melee ability for 4 seconds. The runner's job will be familiar from the first and second encounters, using the gardener mechanic to grow a chain of 7 seeds from the first buff node near the starting point to the final node near to where Nezarek's high platform is. As in earlier encounters, the buff node will move as the chain is extended, starting out at node 1 but moving after it's been shot 3 times. The runner will need to check where the buff node has relocated to each time. The route is a little randomised, similar to Cataclysm, with the 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th nodes being paired. In the Nezarek fight, runners have an additional responsibility, which is to create a refuge to protect the fireteam from the boss wipe mechanic. If you recall, during the second parkour section before Macrocosm, the fireteam created refuges against overwhelming darkness by carrying the field of light buff to a darkness seed and activating it. The same method is used here, so if the stunners call out that the wipe mechanic is darkness, the light runner must take the field of light buff to an active but not buffed darkness node and activate it by shooting it. Likewise, if the stunners call out that the wipe mechanic will be light, the dark runner must take Flux of Darkness to an active light seed to create a light refuge. The refuge will be visible as an aura around the seed and differs from a normal buff node in having an additional beam that connects with the ground. Stepping into it will give a refuge buff which lasts for 15 seconds after leaving the aura. You'll need to time your visit to the refuge to make sure you're not getting out too early and hanging around too long waiting, as this will give time for adds to respawn and for Nezarek to attack a concentrated group of guardians, but you will need to leave enough time to get the refuge buff and avoid the wipe. Gunners will need to add clear aggressively. Cabal will spawn in regularly on left, mid and right sides, including a yellow bar Colossus whose slowing missiles and rapid slug fire will be a major threat for your runners amongst the regular red bar miners. After starting the encounter, Nezarek will drop down from his platform to the main arena and adds will start spawning in significant numbers. The runners will start building their chains. The stunners will break the shoulder crits to determine the wipe mechanic paracausal energy type and then shoot his chest crit spot to take the timed hatred debuff, and the gunners will add clear on their side, paying particular attention to the Colossuses. Once the wipe mechanic type is ascertained, the relevant runner will set up a refuge to protect the fireteam. The Cluckers generally set up the refuge on the second node if possible, as these are both closer to the centre of the map, so a bit more convenient for everyone to get to. It's also a bit safer than the first node, where Nezarek can quite easily boop you from the plate with a refuge out of the arena with his jump dive suppression attack. However, circumstances might dictate that you have to use the first node, if the buff node is currently on the second plate, or Nezarek or adds are making things difficult. Whoever sets it up needs to call out where the refuge is so that people know where they have to travel to. Everyone should start to converge on the refuge and make sure that they're close enough to dip into it while still clearing as many adds as they're able. Once Nezarec starts the wipe mechanic, they can dip in one last time, knowing that the 15-second refuge timer will last long enough to survive the overwhelming energy attack. Everyone can then resume what they were doing beforehand. After Nezarec has used his wipe attack, he will teleport back to his starting platform. If there's a delay with building the seed connections, it's possible to set up a second refuge within the add phase. The stunners will need to repeat the cycle of breaking the shoulders again to reveal the paracausal energy type, call this to the runners for them to create the correct refuge, and then chest crit to take the Nezarec's hatred timed debuff again. Now, it's just my hypothesis. I haven't got much evidence beyond the recording of this run to go on, as this only occurred while I was watching the footage, that the second wipe attack will always be the opposite paracausal energy type to the first, and that in any add phase you'll only be able to set up one light and one darkness refuge. So, if you take too long to create the seed chains, and he warms up for a third overwhelming energy attack, you'll have no means of protecting the fire team, and it'll be an automatic wipe. If anyone wants to give it a try, do please let me know if my hunch is correct. The runner who set up the refuge will now be a couple of nodes behind the other runner. This is a natural consequence of having to stop to set it up, and is nothing to worry about. Once all 6 nodes have been connected on both sides, the fire team will need to converge on a location to do boss damage, clearing any adds out when they get there. The Cluckers have a habit of using the second dark node location, not to gain any buff in particular, but to be on a low platform, which makes it much more difficult for Nezarec to bully you about. Any of the platforms can be used to set up on, so this is something you should agree with your fire team before starting the encounter to make sure everyone's turning up to the same place. A beam of light and then darkness energy will hit Nezarec after a few seconds, releasing the paracausal energy he had stored for the next wipe attack and weakening him to damage, together with what Minnow refers to as his argle bargle sound cue. You'll now have a 30-second window for sustained damage. Like Rulk in the Vow of the Disciple raid, Nezarec is very mobile and will continue moving, attacking and jumping. His chest will continue to be his crit spot, but if you have someone to run Divinity, that will make the fight much easier. Wells are good to boost damage, and, in their absence, healing rifts are also useful to stay alive as he retaliates and from incoming fire from any surviving adds. A Titan dropping a rally barricade to speed up reloads can be helpful too. If you're standing on a platform when he jumps up, he will land in pretty much the same place, so you don't have to look around to find him and can anticipate where to start firing again. Once the damage phase has ended, Nezarec will do a final jump dive attack, suppressing anyone nearby, become resistant to damage once more and teleport back to his platform. Before the next add phase starts, take the time to reload all your weapons and pick up as much power and special ammo as possible before rinsing and repeating. With a good setup, you should be able to get Nezarec to his final stand in 2 damage phases, although the second darkness plate does have an annoying ridge that he can sometimes set up behind, which means you'll lose part of a damage phase. As we demonstrate here, there's no dishonour in taking 3 damage phases, but this is the maximum before he enrages. Once you get Nezarec down to his health bar marker, he will enter his last stand phase. He'll briefly go immune while he absorbs additional paracausal energy, and once vulnerable to damage again, you'll now need to kill him before he can unleash his overwhelming energy attack, so hold back some heavy and offensive supers just to make sure. Once he's dead, the boss loot chest will spawn on the high platform that Nezarec stands on at the beginning of each phase. The chest can drop the Acacia's Dejection Trace Rifle, Rufus's Fury Auto Rifle, Briar's Contempt Linear Fusion Rifle, and the exotic Conditional Finality Shotgun, as well as helmet, legs and class item armour. If you've completed the Deep Sight Garden sequence, you will also be guaranteed an additional Deep Sight weapon that you haven't yet completed the pattern for, and you'll have the opportunity to purchase another red box weapon from the Residuum of the Disciple Night Terror chest vendor using Spoils of Conquest. Your setup will depend on your role. Stunners will need a good distance weapon to break Nezarec's crit spots. You'll see both Aryan and Zone are using a sniper special weapon, as well as a decent CQC primary for helping with ad clear. Runners shouldn't be engaging with ads much at all, although they may need to defend refuges, so good CQC ad clearing weapons will be useful. Their builds should mainly focus on speed and survival, whether that means additional damage resistance, health regeneration or invisibility. Gunners will be dealing with adds at close and mid-range, so we'll need a combination of primary and special weapons that covers both. Adds will frequently be grouped together, particularly when spawning, so weapons with crowd control perks such as incandescent, vault shot, destabilising rounds and chain reaction, or exotic weapon poison effects will serve well, as will weapons with traits that provide refreshable damage boosts. Everyone will need boss damage weapons. When we did this, Thunderlord was pretty much the go-to. The combination of the lightning strike additional damage and partial reload makes it good for sustained damage, but a legendary LMG with a big magazine and passive damage boosting traits also works well, and the Legend of Acreus is reportedly very good too. I would say that explosive weapons are a bit of a no-no. Nezarec is just too close, and with everyone grouped together on the plate, too mobile for them to be anything other than dangerous. To you, rather than him. Because he's very close, linear fusion rifles can also feel unwieldy, but feel free to use whatever is the boss damage meta when you run it. While I know only a few people in any clan might have it, Divinity will probably make you the most popular member of any fireteam, as it means everyone else can just focus on hitting the crit cage it generates. Without it, you'll need to aim at the chest crit spot when he's prowling around on the ground. If you're running Div, like sheep in our run, you can then use a light machine gun in your heavy slot for easy ad clear. Our setup was for Tukes and Minnow acting as light and dark runners, Aaron to act as the stunner and mid-area ad clear, with Zone mainly clearing ads in the middle but acting as a backup stunner just in case. Handling ad clearing was Frel on the light side on the left and Sheep on the right hand dark side. Minnow and Tukes start the encounter by shooting the darkness and light seeds and proceed to create seed chains on each side. Aaron watches as Nezarec jumps down and, once his shoulders become infused with resonant energy and are vulnerable to damage, indicated by the striped markings, shoots them to reveal that the wipe attack will be overwhelming light. You can see this from the light aura that escapes after she shoots the second shoulder pad crit spot. Initially, Tukes and Zone have the Nezarec's hatred debuff until Aaron is able to shoot his chest crit spot. Also, it's worth noting that Zone shoots the Abyssal Cleave Vortex to prevent it from targeting the rest of the fire team.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Go.
With Aaron calling out that it'll be the light energy wipe mechanic, Minnow creates a light refuge by taking the Flux of Darkness to the active seed at the second light side plate and shooting it. The rest of the fire team makes sure to dip into the aura to get the light's refuge buff.
It's a light refuge.
Okay.
Do we need to go?
And over. Yeah, I'm setting up on the
wherever.
second plate here. On me.
Cool.
Only down our bulk. There we go.
Nezarec's back starts glowing to indicate he's about to use his overwhelming energy attack, which means that Guardians can leave the aura as the 15-second light's refuge timer will last long enough to survive. Tukes finishes connecting the light side seeds and all the nodes emit a pulse of energy. Minnow, as he's had to take time to set up the light refuge, has a couple left to complete.
Okay, light done.
I've got 2 more to do, but won't take long.
After the wipe attack, Nezarec teleports back to his starting platform. Aaron hits one shoulder and demonstrates why it's not a good idea to take his timed hatred debuff before breaking his second shoulder crit. After shooting his chest, Nezarec chases her down so he's alarmingly close when she's able to shoot his right shoulder out with a little help from Zone. Minnow finishes the darkness seeds and the nodes emit a burst of energy.
Oh my god, he's proper jumping today.
Right, it's because Sheep called him fat.
I'm sorry, I think I said that.
Dark's done.
Okay, 2 damage plate.
The fire team converges on Darkness Plate 2 for the boss damage phase, just as Aaron hits Nezarek's second shoulder to reveal that the next wipe would have been Darkness based.
Yeah, where Tooks is.
When the beam of resonant energy hits Nezarek and everyone hears the Argle Bargle audio cue, the damage phase begins. As you can see, it's a single sustained damage phase that lasts 30 seconds and ends with a jump suppression attack.
He's up.
Got a div.
Sheep's got a div.
No, that's a reload.
Reloading. Immune.
Immune.
Yep.
You can now watch the rest of the video to better understand the cadence of the ad phases and boss DPS phase, the individual roles, and the flow of communication between the fire team members. You'll also see the Enrages Near warning at the end of the second damage phase, letting the fire team know that there's only one more attempt left to get Nezarek to his final stand health bar marker.
Any ammo. I couldn't see a single brick anywhere.
No, same.
Okay, off we go again.
It's a dark refuge.
Okay.
That's not me.
I'll do it on the second plate in on dark.
Oh! Quite interesting.
Okay. It's working.
Quite a lot.
Dark side's done.
Cool. Alright.
If anything bad happens, it's light refuge.
No, we're on the last one. Fine.
Cool.
But I have no ammo.
I have literally
Yeah,
some.
shut down I took down a big guy in the middle, so there should be a purple one there for everyone.
Yep.
Easy damage.
Not yet.
No.
Wait until he does his Murloc Groggle Boggle.
Now.
There we
That
go.
is.
Well,
Oh,
I don't see it.
Just
Ah, stand still. I hate when he does
Reloading.
this.
oh, bye.
Immune.
I mean,
there's immune.
Okay.
He got
It's not bad
Tukes,
damage
but
considering.
he didn't say thank you.
Thank you.
So next time I let him die.
That's fair.
sounds fair.
If you weren't getting me die, I wouldn't have been dead. What now?
I mean, to be fair, Sheep, there is somebody within the clan who I would say is way harsher with Tooks than I am.
Who is that?
That's Dazzy. Dazzy?
Yeah, it's light refuge.
Nuts.
Are you being bullied, Tukes?
I would think probably does it, yeah. It's alright, I just, you know, thin line between love and hate.
Second light plate for the refuge.
No, it's not, it's got other bubble on it.
Oh shit. There we go. It doesn't now.
He's wiping.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
on
Oh
me.
shit.
Whoa.
Oh, my buff's gone all the way to the...
Bloody
Getting
shell.
down there.
Well, I currently only have harsh language. Fire at this boss.
Should be enough.
As I say, Dark Refuge if maybe, but I don't know.
No, I'm on the last one now. Dark side done. Ow.
Oh my god, he's damaged face already.
Yep.
Yep.
He's
He's
eager
in
to
an awful
die.
place.
Oh, what did you just move? There he is. Right, get ready to pause.
Now,
Immune.
That's it.
reload.
Oh, he's damageable.
There we go.
Bye-bye.
So long, bulk.
I'm gonna go
question
get
is,
the
did
chest
Zone get his
before
shotgun?
Brawl takes us back to the
No,
lobby.
of course I didn't.
Oh, poor Zone.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
What's the timer at, by the way?
The timer is at 37.
Yeah.
Cool.
You might have noticed that in the third phase, Minnow tried to set up a darkness refuge on the second light plate, but wasn't able to, as just as he arrived it was converted to the buff node by Tukes shooting the first node for the third time. It's only after Tukes returns from the fourth node and shoots it to take Field of Light again that the buff node moves, and Minnow fortunately still has enough Flux of Darkness time left to set it up. Just afterwards, Zone has incredibly good timing, or really bad planning depending on your perspective, dropping into the refuge at the moment that Nezarec triggers the overwhelming energy attack, taking damage but saving himself with barely a split second to spare. Also, as he's done throughout the raid, Zone runs very counterculture and is using Leviathan's Breath for boss DPS, another very viable option if you have someone running Divinity on your fire team. Well, that's it for the Mother Clucker raid guide for the Route of Nightmares. As you can tell, a few deaths shouldn't be enough to derail a run, so don't stress too much. Ideally, after watching this series, you'll now feel a bit more confident to step up into the more specialist roles and understand how to recover if you hit a snag, although there's nothing wrong with the occasional team wipe to reset an encounter. One final time, I'd like to thank my willing fire team, Aaron PK, Frel UK, Electric Sheep, Minonai, Tukes and Zone Runner for running the raid, and to Zone in particular for being my personal FAQ site. Also, thanks to Kyber for their excellent raid loot infographic that I've used throughout this series, and to Priani for the awesome raid maps which saved me hours of creating my own in Illustrator. Just to set expectations, if you feel like subscribing to the channel, we don't post that regularly. This video has taken the best part of 3 months to put together, but I do occasionally throw in quick how-to videos, mostly for soloing content along the way. Likes and comments do help with visibility if you have the time and inclination. So, on behalf of the Cluckers, thank you for watching, we hope that's been helpful, and may all your drops be God rolls.